Great to see you all here. Welcome to MandoLessons Live. I am your host, Baron. Collins Hill is my name. Took me a second to remember there. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you, Woody, for reminding me of the tune of the day, which is what I just played, which is Katie Bar the Door, a great old-time tune I learned from Raina Gellert. It's in the key of D, and we'll play that at the end of the hour and have a little jam along on it. Who do we got here? We got Dale and Lewis and Jim, Donald, Woody, Lindsay, Jane, Sheldon, Geroyd, Dan, James, Diana, Edward, Dan, William, Robert, Tidies, Aunt Matt. Good to see you all here. James, Rick, and Peter. Yes, good morning to everyone from a snowy Oregon. It's been snowing for a couple days here. And it's, it's kind of a bit of a winter wonderland out there. I know it's super cold in other parts of the country. Hope you're all home and warm and surrounded with mandolins. If you're new here, let me know in the chat. It's great to know when people show up for the first time. Always a pleasure. And the way these work, if you're new, is it's pretty chill. We just get to chat. I love answering questions, so keep the questions coming, and I'll do my best to answer them. It can be anything mandolin or music or anything related, really. If I know the answer, I'll do my best to transmit said answer to you. I'm also happy to take requests for tunes that I know how to play that are in the public domain, and we'll have fun. Yeah, see if there's anything in the chat so far. Got all sorts of folks here already. Great to see it. All right. Donald found me out. Yep, I am using the 5-course mandolin. So this is a mandolin that's got an extra set of strings. It's got 10 strings total. And it's just like a mandolin except for the low, so it's G, D, A, E. It's got this low C string. Got this a little while back. Then I had to go into the shop for just a little bit of a setup. And I got it back, and it's got really bright, zingy new strings on it, so I figured I'd play a little bit. I like the sound of strings when they're couple weeks old, so I figured I'd put some time on this instrument and see if I can dull it down a little bit. Find the sweet spot is for me, you know, like a week of good playing in, everything starts to mellow out and then lasts a couple months. But some people love the sound of new strings, some people love the sound of super dead strings, but yeah, it's all good, whatever you like the sound of. All right, we've got... Maybe I'll play a little Cold Frosty Morning since everybody's talking about how cold it is. And then Lewis also suggests Lazy John. That's how I'm feeling too. Yeah, I'll play a little bit of Cold Frosty Morning, see if I can turn it into Lazy John. Let's see. There you go, a little bit cold, frosty morning for those of you in a chilly place, and a little bit of Lazy John for Lewis. All right, let's see here. More folks chiming in. Great to hear it. Sean asked how the Cittern playing is coming. Pretty good. I mean, it's a little hard with the larger instruments because mostly I like to play those with other people, and not playing with too many other people these days, but I've got a tiny little Irish session going on in my house of the three of us that live here, so that's been a lot of fun. And I pull out the Cittern sometimes for that. And yeah, it's been good. Haven't spent as much time as I'd like with it, but slowly getting used to it. It's a lot of strings and it's a long scale length. Yep. So Douglas is saying that he likes the sound of new strings and changes them every 2 weeks. Yeah, it's definitely, if you like that sound, it's a little more upkeep, but hey, it's a cool sound. I don't, yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I do like the sound of new strings, but I'm too lazy to admit it to myself. Because there is something nice about it. Get a little more kind of crisp attack on them. Molding frosty corn. Good to see you, Benjamin. All right, yeah, two week break-in and good for 6 months. Yeah, my Ellis right now has got really old strings on it, probably over 6 months, and it's time to change them. Things are getting funky on that guy, but I'll pull that out in a second. Oh, James is requesting "Walk Along John to Kansas." I love that tune. I don't know if I can remember how it goes. Walk along John to Kansas. I can't remember how it goes right now. It's one of my favorite tunes. Haven't thought about it. It is in the public domain as far as I know. There's actually a couple Walk Along John to Kansases. There's one on a Bob Carlin album that's totally different from, I think, the one that most people know. But I'll try to, maybe that'll pop into my head later in the stream. All right, we got a couple folks just a couple weeks in. Glad to hear that. That's always fun. James asks how I tune the Cittern. So I tune the Cittern. We'll see how in tune the Cittern is. I don't have the right pick near me. Woo! Whoa! I tune it carefully. So I tune the Cittern. We've got a low string that's a D, and then the middle 3 sets of strings are just like the first 30 sets of strings of an octave mandolin. G, D, A, So you've got G, D, A in the middle, and then instead of an E, like an octave mandolin, I've got a D on top, and then a low D below it. So it's a very big, out of tune. Whew, that's kind of too out of tune to play, but it's fun. Trying to learn some Scandinavian tunes on it, and I like backing up fiddle players playing that thing. Yeah, there's a million different ways people tune citerns. Some people do it C, G, D, A, E. Some people do D, A, D, A, D. I do D, G, D, A, D. Lots of options. All right, got more people filing in. Great to see you all. Glad you're enjoying the lessons, Josh. Thanks for tuning in. Arthur McBride. I wish I could play Arthur McBride. That's a great song. I don't know all the words, though. And I feel like if you're going to sing it, you got to have that whole beautiful story. I tried to learn that once, the Paul Brady version. In his whatever, he's in some like open C or G tuning. Can't remember what it is, but I like probably over 10 years ago now. I tried to get my brain around his setting of that. It's a beautiful song. Yeah, elixirs definitely stay good for a while. Sean's talking about. Did you say the 10 string has a longer scale? Ooh, that's the wrong one. Yeah. So this is. I think of rather than a 10-string mandolin, I think of this as a 10-string mandola. So it's got C, G, D, A, like a mandola, and then it just happens to have an high E, because the scale length is 2 inches longer than your average mandolin. It's 16 inches, so it's a little bit wider, but I find I can still, get the big chop chord. Pretty well. It's not quite as smooth as a little one, but I'm slowly working away at it. Yeah, Walk Along Joe. That's the there is that classic recording of John Reichman doing that. It's an awesome tune. I wish I could remember how it goes. Let's see. Oh, there was a request that I missed. What was it? Something in Kitchen Girl. I can play a little Kitchen Girl. Yeah, Ant-Man is saying he's got tons of time to play, but it can be hard to focus and put in the time. That's totally, you're not alone on that one. It's hard when we kind of like lose the structure of normal life to kind of keep up with what we're used to be doing. So I'm totally in the same boat, and you just gotta try to grab onto that inspiration wherever you can find it. If you can find it, and know that it will come back, even if you don't have it right now. All right, Jacob, good to have you here. Oh, the new tenor, yeah. Uncle Bobby follows me on Instagram. I've got this big old archtop tenor guitar. This is turning into an instrument petting zoo. This thing is tuned straight. It's good because last week I had a bunch of questions about octave mandolins right at the end, and I was like, oh, I'll get some out next week. So this is tuned straight like a mandolin or octave mandolin. G, D, A, E. But it's just 4 strings instead of 8 or 6. I like playing kind of jazzy chords or backing up New England tunes on this thing. So there's a little bit of tenor guitar. Connie asked if I'm currently playing in a band. Not really, no. Because I played in a band, a couple sort of pickup bands in Maine, as long as sort of my main band, Velocipede, which is fiddler Julia Plum, a good friend of mine, and myself. We would play a lot of contra dances. I played mostly tenor guitar, but also some mandolin. She played fiddle. We'd play for a lot of dances and do concerts and workshops, and I teach at a lot of camps in the summers when there are camps to teach at. Speaking of, next weekend, there is virtual Maine Fiddle Camp. Hope you all can join us. You can find out more at mainfiddlecamp.com. It's a suggested donation of $50. I'm going to be teaching mandolin there with my good friend Glenn Loper, another great mandolin player. There's also fiddle and guitar and whistle and all kind of cello workshops. There's workshops for a million different instruments, so tell your friends. It's going to be a great weekend, and it's coming right up in just a week from yesterday. But out now, I moved to Oregon almost exactly a year ago, and right before the pandemic, so I haven't met anybody out here yet, really. But I look forward to going to sessions and meeting up with fellow musicians out here when the time is right. Sal's Got Mud Between Her Toes is a great tune that I can never remember how it goes. All right, Kim and Charles, first time joining from Ontario. Good to have you here. Yes, Ant-Man is a great question. Can you talk a little bit about melodic variations? You say you don't practice scales, so how do you work on variation? Since often you play chromatically, I feel you would have to be familiar. To play chromatically, you'd have to be familiar with lots of scales. Yes. Get out regular mandolin now. So that's a great question. And I'll preface, I often say I don't practice scales. I have practiced scales in the past. I studied jazz in college. I didn't dive in super deep into like knowing all my scales and all my modes and things like that, but I know enough theory and have done enough kind of practicing in the past that I can kind of fake a lot of stuff. But yeah, so melodic variations, I think a lot of kind of my association with tunes and association with sort of like what you can do with tunes in terms of melodic variation. I started out playing bluegrass, where you're, part of that tradition is to just like play solos over chord changes. So you got a little chord progression, and then somebody says, take it. Play something. And I think a lot of sort of what informed my ability to play kind of breaks in a bluegrass situation is just kind of listening to what other people are doing and trying to imitate that for years and years and years. And you kind of get a sense of what it is that kind of is kind of the classic bluegrass sound, and what it is when you're kind of like bending that, stretching out that rubber band a little bit and kind of coloring outside the lines. And it's totally part of the tradition, is to see kind of push it a little bit. Bill Monroe was a huge innovator, and he sort of created kind of bluegrass canon, but also he was kind of he was stretching the boundaries of traditional music himself when he was doing it, and a lot of our favorite musicians do just that. So it doesn't mean you need, if you're playing bluegrass, you need to only play Bill Monroe solos. You can totally do whatever you want. So I think getting into sort of general improvisation, I got there through kind of the time-honored tradition of just making it up as I go along. And then when we get to sort of like melodic variation in fiddle tunes, I take a little bit of that, and also just kind of, you can, if you learn a bunch of fiddle tunes, you learn a bunch of different ways to kind of construct melodies. And I've spent some time writing my own tunes. I've learned a lot of fiddle tunes, and you can just sort of use the information that you get from playing a bunch of tunes of like, oh, you can do this little pattern. And it's like, okay, so that's kind of a little bit like Blackberry Blossom. And then you say, okay, well, that's a lot of notes, so if I want to do a little variation on that, that takes a little bit of that kind of bluegrass, bluesy sound. Kind of that B flat to B. And what I like to do is, whenever I'm kind of thinking in terms of melodic variation versus kind of really far out solos, I really try to make it always sound a little bit like the tune I'm playing over, and not sort of leave Blackberry Blossom entirely in the dust, kind of come back to it every once in a while. I haven't played this tune in a while. So I'm kind of taking some of that familiarity with playing solos and improvising that I got from bluegrass and studying some jazz. And I think, you know, my way of learning and kind of practicing scales, I don't tend to sit around and play a D scale. You know, I have done that in the past. I think it's can be helpful just to, you know, like give yourself a little kind of pop quiz of like, okay, where's a B flat scale? Okay, well, I gotta find a B flat. And then just noodle around in it for a while. After that, you know, just say, okay, well, I know, you know, I can kind of use my brain to kind of figure out where a scale lies. So, you know, you can kind of get that base knowledge. But from there, really getting into it and saying, okay, rather than just playing a D scale, I'm going to play Katie Bar the Door. And it's going to use the D scale a lot, but just in more kind of interesting and musical ways than just playing that D scale. And then when it comes time to take a solo over Flop-Eared Mule, you can take a little bit of that Katie Bar the Door or a little pattern that you found in some other tune and just kind of mix it in a little bit. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but I hope that is helpful. You know, a little bit of scale certainly doesn't hurt. And I think the only reason I avoid kind of practicing straight scales in my own playing and practice routines is I don't often, sometimes I kind of can get into the fun of it, but I often don't find that to be the most kind of musically rewarding. I play music because it's fun. That's sort of my number one thing. And so if I'm going to practice something, I kind of want to practice something that's fun. And for me, I often have a lot more fun if I'm playing tunes rather than working on scales. That said, sometimes I'm in situations where I need to like be in a band setting or in a recording and somebody's like, all right, let's play in the key of B major. And I'm like, whoo, all right. I haven't played in the key of B major for a long time. And I'll really kind of spend some time on sort of like professional engagements stretching outside of my comfort zone. But for the most part, in my day-to-day, I play fiddle tunes. They're in a handful of keys. And I certainly could improve my ability to play in some keys like B natural and B flat and E flat. But because there aren't that many tunes in those keys that I'm called to play, I don't tend to practice them. And it doesn't tend to inhibit my ability to make music in the situations that I find myself in. I hope that makes sense. Again, long-winded answer, but great question. All right, I'll catch up with the chat here. MT Mike says, can you think of a reason why my A string seems to have a slightly different tone from each other? Seems to happen on both my mandolins. A strings on mandolins, and maybe Benjamin can answer this. There's something about A strings on mandolins that's just like, often the intonation's a little funky, often they don't quite hold tune in the same way. I don't have a good kind of physical answer. I know what you mean, I think, is maybe the best thing I can throw out there. You could try a different set of strings. You could bring it into a shop and say, here's what I'm working with. You know, it could be a slight buzz that doesn't really sound like a buzz, but it just kind of changes the tone a little bit between one of those A strings and the other. But I think a good shop could be able to maybe help you figure that out. Yeah, Uncle Bobby, got to get the harmony tenor out. Absolutely. All right, we got more commiseration on the mandolin A string. It's definitely a somewhat universal experience for some reason. Yep, you can also tune one to a tuner and then tune the other by ear. That's also, to a lesser extent, that's why I have these. Let me get it in these kind of dampeners there, and up on the headstock here. These guys. It's because sometimes you can get these strange little kind of sympathetic vibrations that can sort of trick your ears or trick a tuner sometimes, and sort of make things not sound quite as they seem. And it can be a nice sound. It can be an interesting kind of like jangly in a good way, like overtone sound that really kind of makes the instrument sound alive. But my own personal preference is to really kind of lock down all of the sound that isn't where I'm picking and fretting. So I don't want to hear sound out of here or here, even though that can add some kind of richness to the sound sometimes. It can also bring in some unwanted harmonics at the same time. All right, Scooter says, just bought a Mando, and as from a regular, and playing guitar mainly, help, that neck is small. It sure is. And let me tell you, as someone that played mandolin first for 10 years and then picked up a guitar, guitars' necks are big. But in all seriousness, I think just spend a little time with it every day. Pick it up, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Noodle around on it, find some cool chords and scales and tunes, and you'll slowly get used to it. The only kind of advice I can give that's really specific is, unlike on a guitar, where you kind of have your fingers are often laid out like this, where you have like open string, 2nd fret with your pointer finger, 3rd fret with your middle finger, 4th fret with your ring finger, 5th fret with the pinky, kind of 1 fret per finger. On a mandolin, you get 2 frets per finger. So you have that open 2, and then the 4th fret is with your middle finger, 5th fret or 6th fret with your ring finger, 7th fret with your pinky, and then once you get to the 7th fret on a mandolin, it's the same as the next string over. Unlike on a guitar where you get to the 5th fret, and then it's the same as the next highest string in pitch. So kind of going to that 2 frets per finger rather than looking like this. You're going to look like this. So the kind of the simplified way is your pointer finger's on the 2nd fret and your ring finger is on the 5th fret, and your middle finger will kind of play double duty on the 3rd or 4th fret, depending on the key or kind of what sound you're going for. Sometimes your ring finger will go to the 6th fret, sometimes your pointer finger will go to the 1st, but 2 frets per finger is sort of the way to approach the mandolin, and it'll make your hand not feel quite as kind of cramped up if you're stretched out a little bit more. Great question though, and have fun with the mandolin. You'll pick if you've been playing guitar for a long time, you'll pick up mandolin pretty quick because a lot of it's the same. You know, you're still using the pick, you're still fretting strings. There's a lot of crossover. You just got to get used to the tuning and the kind of different frets per finger thing on the left hand and get a couple chords. Hey, Dan's Tune, good to have you here. Glad you could make it. All right, Tawanda Smooth. I probably am not saying your name right, but I'm glad you could finally make it to a session. Glad you can join in from Lawrence, Kansas. Good to have you here. Thank you, Robert Henold, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Helps me do these live streams most Saturdays, which I tend to do. I won't be doing one next week because of Maine Fiddle Camp, virtual Maine Fiddle Camp. Hope to see you there. That's going to be a super fun little thing going on. But yeah, super chats really appreciated, and donations, there's lots of links in the description to different ways to donate. It's all the same to me. I appreciate it regardless of where it comes from. But I got links to PayPal if that's more your style, and there's a bunch of Patreon friends here. Great to see you all as always. I also do some patron only live streams where you get a little more in-depth answers, and because there aren't 70 people there, there's usually like 10 or 12. I get to chill out a little bit more and spend more time on questions, but I appreciate the support, Robert. James says Victor Wooten, who I love, says one scale you should practice is the chromatic scale. He is a very good music teacher and philosopher. That's how I think of him. Agreed. Yeah, what is it? He has one called he's got a couple books that are just excellent. I've read in the past. I can't remember the name of any of them at this point, but Vic is awesome. Empty Mike says, I get to a part in the tune where I start doing a lot of up and down strokes on the A string. Oh, still talking about the A string difference. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's something that could maybe be kind of looked at by a luthier. Because I think with a good setup, there shouldn't be any issues either with tuning or with, the tone of your A strings. You can try different string gauges. If the tension's really, depending on what gauge string you've got, if it's kind of different from your other strings, that can be things. You got to make sure that you're putting 2 of the same string on. If you break one A string and you just put on another random A string and it's a slightly different gauge, that's going to cause problems for sure. If I break a string, it's usually because they're pretty old, at which point I just try to change them all. Because then if one's new and one's old, that can also exacerbate that tone issue. Hey Blair, good to have you here. Yep, some people have wound A strings, what James is talking about. It's a little rare to find on mandolins, but they can be found. Because the A string is right in that gauge area where you can have either wound or unwound. Unwound A strings are much more common on mandolins, but I know especially like some jazz musicians really like the sound of that wound A string. I've never played with them myself. And some flat wound strings too, you'll find wound A's, like Tomastics and other flat wound strings. Awesome, Richard got a Lore LM310 for Christmas. Loving it. Congratulations and have fun. That's a great mandolin. Yep, Tomastics have the wound A's from Lewis. Glad I'm not making things up. Julia from Frankfurt, good to have you here. Yeah, like the G string on the guitar, that kind of can be wound or unwound. Same idea. Yep, so Benjamin's got some great advice on kind of how the nut and the bridge interact with your strings so that that those won't cause the issue as well. Ant-Man has a question. Anyone remember the name of the plastic piece that goes on the back of the mandolin to push it away from your body to get better resonance? Do you guys have opinions on them? You are talking about this, which is a tone guard. I've kind of gone back and forth on tone guards in the past. I don't think they're really like a necessity. So how you spell it is it's TONE-GARD. It's not GUARD or GAURD. I can't remember how to spell the word guard, but it's a little different. It's a guy who makes these little cages that go on the back and they just pop right off. But they hold, there's a little bit of space. Let's see if I can get that in the, yeah. So it just kind of keeps some space between you and the mandolin, kind of your shirt and the mandolin to kind of let the whole instrument ring out. I used one for many years and then for some reason was just like, I don't really like that as much anymore and stopped using it. But just in the last couple, probably the last month or two, I've kind of gotten back into them. I used one on my Ellis for a long time, and then I got this Gibson oval hole mandolin and didn't have a tone guard on it, and then put a tone guard on that and was like, oh, that really helps that particular instrument. So it can be instrument dependent. But then I went and tried the tone guard on the Ellis again and was like, hey, that's good. So yeah, it's something you can try. Is just, holding the instrument against your stomach like you normally play, and then holding it slightly away, or like propping it on your kind of knee so that whole back will resonate, and playing it again. It's not going to make a difference here because I've got microphones in specific places and I've already got the tone guard on, but you can do that. I think on the tone guard website they recommend doing that, but kind of standing like 2 feet from a wall so you really get the reflection of the sound back at you. Or you can do little like phone recordings and see if you can tell a difference there. But yeah, that is the tone guard. Give them a try. You can also just put like if you want to give it a try, you can just like find a little cookie sheet, maybe put some padding so it doesn't scratch up your instrument, and then kind of give that as a quick little. That's what I did when I was like, I want to try a tone guard, but they're kind of expensive. They're like $75. So I was like, as like a 10-year-old, I was like, I'm not going to spend $75 on that. That's like more money than I know what to do with. So I was just like, I'm going to use a cookie sheet. And I did that for a week and then was like, or a cookie like cooling rack. And then was sort of like, okay, yeah, that makes a difference. I like that. And a couple of years later got one. Yeah, it's worth trying out. Oh yeah, and it is metal, not plastic. And yeah, the guy that makes them for mandolins and mandolas, and I think he even makes guitar ones, which I've never used. I did get one for that 10-string mandola, because especially with the low C string, I found that this instrument really likes to have that wide open back, I think, just to really let that C string be as powerful as possible. What is your opinion on the tone guard? All right, so as I was just talking about, I'm just trying to catch up with the chat. Hey, Denise, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the birthday wishes. Yeah, so it was my birthday one of these days, Thursday. I had a great time, just kind of hung out and played some tunes, ate a lot of good food, hung out with my housemates, and had a good time. No complaints. I got snow on my birthday, which is kind of a rarity out here in Portland, so that was... Got a 3-day snow day. But thank you for the super chat. Oh, no, that's all right. I'm usually... Mike just said, sorry to be hammering on the A-string topic. It's totally cool. Especially there's the delay between like what you guys are typing and what I'm seeing and what I'm able to talk about, and then you'll go off things that I say. So the chat's always a little either ahead of me or behind me or something. Flat wounds on a mandolin. a very cool sound. Definitely not as kind of bright and twangy as your average like phosphor bronze strings. I used flat wounds for many years, but then kind of went back to just, they're kind of expensive. They're often, 20 bucks or so. But they also last a lot longer. They're nice and mellow. They feel great under your fingers. Because I play kind of traditional fiddle tunes, I wanted that kind of jangle and sharpness. It kind of lets the mandolin cut through a little better with regular round wound phosphor bronze strings. I wonder if anyone does phosphor bronze flat wounds. I don't know, because I feel like most flat wounds are something else. They're usually silver in color. Syncopated picking. Mine is very even and yours is syncopated. I think I've got some lessons on my website on kind of syncopation. I think something that really helps with... So this is a question from Joe. It says, any advice on syncopated picking? I think it's really good to have a strong foundation of pick direction in your right hand. So always be going down and up if you're playing a reel. Or if you're doing like cross picking. And once you have that really kind of firm foundation of what your right hand should be doing, you sort of get to put less mindfulness into what your right hand is doing. It just becomes very second nature. And at that point, it also gives you a little more space to think about accents, because you're not thinking what direction should my pick be going. You've practiced it enough that it's second nature, and then you can get into like... I think my right hand was going down, up the whole time right there, but honestly, couldn't quite keep up with myself. But you can because your right hand is so used to going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You can go down, up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I can't say it, but. Right hand's always going down, up, but you just got a little down, up, 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 down, up. It's sort of like what you shouldn't do on jigs, but you're doing it intentionally to create syncopation on reels. Oh, cool. Wooten's got a new book out, The Spirit of Music. The audio has music. Excellent. I got to check that out. Richard says, I'm having trouble with the timing required to play quick successive notes. I find it difficult to lift my fingers in time with picking, often producing muted sounds. That is a very common thing that people run into. I've run into that in the past myself. I think the best way to get into that is really to, I say it a lot, but just like start out playing slow, work with a metronome so you can get a nice clean sound. Nice and smooth, good left and right hand coordination. And as you start to speed up, you go... Speed up too fast, everything's going to lock up. You're going to get really tense in all your muscles. Your kind of left and right hand coordination is going to... You're going to kind of get off track, so you're not lined up in the same way, and the sound is totally going to suffer. So start out at a speed that you can play nice and smooth, and then at that speed work on being even extra smooth. How smooth can you make it, and then say, okay, that's really smooth, and then say, can I make it smooth but also swing? And then from there, put a metronome on. do it for a little while. Make sure you can maintain that smoothness, and then just up the metronome a little bit. Not all that much faster. You can do that with tunes, you can do it with scales, whatever you need to do, whatever really helps you get in that zone of really focusing on being smooth. And you then, at that point, really need to kind of just gradually turn up the speed of the metronome every once in a while until you can, you can't make big jumps or else you're going to get tense, you're going to lose that left and right hand coordination, and the sound is going to suffer. All right, Dee or Dehe from Snoqualmie Valley. Good to have you here. All right, I think I missed some stuff. Oh yeah, the music lesson. Matt Baker's saying. Oh, are you the Matt Baker I know? If so, how you doing? And if you're not, never mind. But if you are, I didn't know you were in Scotland at the moment. Congratulations. Hope everything is well. Okay, anyway, that'll be awkward if it's not the Matt Baker I think it is, but can't win them all. Out on the ocean, absolutely. Bit of Out on the Ocean, a great Irish jig. All right, Kevin Charles says, we're new to the mandolin, rented a couple Eastmans, 305 and a 315. See which one we like better. The A is harder to chord and fret than the F. That's going to be a setup issue, so there's a number of factors. That's, the height of the bridge makes the strings higher off the fretboard. It depends on how high the nut is. That's kind of general setup. A style versus F style shouldn't be any harder to play. They should be equally easy to play. So that's not a issue between styles. That's just how the instruments are set up. And if you're just renting them, you could maybe bring that up with the place you're renting them from, or you don't want to dump money into an instrument that you don't own. That should be on the shop that you are renting them from. That's my advice anyway. Yep, Bill. So Ellen says, Bill Monroe points his instrument away from his body, also keeps his hand flatter to the body of the mandolin. So yeah, Bill would often do like this, kind of quite pronounced. Some of that is, if you imagine there's like a microphone right here, often they would play with like a single microphone, or not have like a dedicated mandolin mic. So in bluegrass, sometimes you'll see people, if you have this imaginary microphone, like you actually have to, if you want the mandolin to be heard, you actually like bring it up. So it's closer to the microphone. That's definitely part of it. There's also, I think, a little bit of natural ergonomics that go into having the mandolin kind of pointed away from your body a little bit. If it's totally flat, so like the mandolin's facing straight ahead, and I put my hand on the instrument. If I go sideways and you look at my shoulder's pulled way back in order to keep the mandolin flat. Whereas if I just sit naturally, arm hangs down, bend at the elbow, so there's really nothing moving until here. You put the instrument in your hand, it's naturally pushed away from your body a little bit. You turn back, and the instrument is kind of facing off that direction a little. Hope that's helpful. All right, got a bunch of super chats. Thank you all so much for the birthday super chats. Appreciate it. What is the make of the 10-string? The 10-string is made by Lawrence Smart. Let's see if I can get his little headstock in the ALS. He's kind of got the thing going on there. He's a builder in Idaho, who makes he hasn't, I think maybe this is the only one that he's made that's a straight 16-inch scale, but he makes a lot of, or he's known for making 10 strings with fan fret, so the E string is actually closer to 14 inches, and the C string is 16. They're kind of wild looking. They look a lot more awkward to play than they actually are to play, because your brain looks at it and the frets aren't parallel to each other, and it's like, whoa. You can look up fan fret guitars. Benjamin's actually built some fan fret guitars. But if you look at them, it's sort of like, whoa, the first time you see one, it makes you a little dizzy. But you don't actually notice it that much when playing it. But this is just a flat one. He also builds guitars, mandolins, mandolas, mandolin family instruments in general. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying this thing. Oh, nice. It's your birthday today, Edward. Happy birthday. Sweet Afton. I wish I could play that. It's a copyrighted tune, beautiful Nickel Creek tune. Well, I think is it a Robert Burns poem? But they put it to music, as far as I know. All right, let's see. Anybody have tips on learning to count cut time? That's probably a better one for somebody else. I'm bad at kind of thinking about rhythmic stuff, but maybe somebody here in the chat can help you, Ant-Man, on the cut time thing, or maybe somebody on like Mandolin Cafe, maybe. Oh, awesome! You are the Mad Baker I know. Well, congratulations on the move. Not a bad time to be in a beautiful place like Scotland. Hi to Joey and the family for me. He or Dehe, apologies, I can't say your name. How are these people donating in YouTube? If you give, I don't know exactly, maybe somebody else can explain it. I don't do it all that much, so I'm not in the practice. But you can set it up so YouTube has some payment information from you. It's called Super Chat. Okay, seems like people are helping out on that. Also, if that's kind of complicated and it's one more thing, oh, thank you so much. Looks like it just came through. Thank you for the super chat. All right, let's get ready to play a little bit of Katie Bar the Door. Great tune in the key of D, and it's about the end of the hour. I'll answer these last couple questions, and then we'll play some Katie Bar the Door. McClung armrests are nice. Another birthday gift. Yep, those are the ones that I like to use. There's a lot of different folks that make great armrests. My preference is for these McClungs built by Doug Edwards. Hill County String Works, or Hill Country. I think it's Hill County. Can never remember. String Works. Doug Edwards McClung armrests. Not sponsored, just love his products. Oh, D'Addario does have flat wound phosphor bronze. Cool. All right, so awesome, Dawn. Appreciate it for the super chat. All right, I'll get a normal mandolin to not confuse anybody. And we'll play a little bit of Katie Bar the Door. Key of D. Learned this one from Raina Getlert a long time ago. I think it's on my solo clawhammer banjo album, but I honestly forget sometimes. The way this works is we'll just pass it back and forth. I'll start out by playing the melody, you play the chords, and then we'll swap. So I'll play the chords while you play the melody. If you don't know the tune, this is a great way just to have fun, see if you can hit some notes that sound good, pick up a phrase here and there. If you do know the tune, it's a great way to play it a bunch, get it under your fingers, and work on the chords and the melody. If you've been playing Katie Bar the Door for a long time, great time to work on some improvisation, some melodic variation, kind of spice it up in a way so you're getting challenged wherever you're at with the tune. It's been a little while since I played this one, so if I'm not playing it quite like how I have taught it, my apologies. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. B. Take it. B part. I'll take it. B part. Go for it. Good to see you, Denise. See you at Fiddle Camp. Second B. One more, everybody play. B part. Awesome, there's a little Katie Bar the Door. So, if somebody has an Irish tune that they'd like to play next week, throw it out there, and I'll make sure we didn't do it with my little set of notes here. Throw throw out some Irish tunes you'd like to do a little jam along on next week. And see what happens. Actually, it's not next week because I'm teaching at Maine Fiddle Camp. You can go to mainefiddlecamp.com. Entrance registration is just $50 suggested donation. More is great, less is not a problem. But it's I'm going to be teaching mandolin all weekend, so I can't do my live stream. But I'm going to have fun over there. There's a bunch of folks here that I know I'm going to be seeing, so looking forward to hanging out with you all. And yeah, so let me see. There was one question. Faculty 7025 or 725 said, when you play a D chord, your thumb kind of ends up near in the kind of the curve of the headstock. So you're kind of going G, C, I'm guessing like D, something like that, G. I think if you can figure out a way to play it without moving your thumb a lot, you know, where your thumb generally hangs out, you know, sometimes for some people it's closer to here, for some people it's closer to here. Whatever's comfortable for you is great, but if you can figure out a way to move your thumb less, it'll be and remain comfortable. It'll kind of it's a little more ergonomic that way, so you're not always kind of moving your thumb back and forth. So when I play, it looks like this. So it's more of just like a pivot. My hand comes away. Let's see if I can get it in this. Oops, wrong direction. My hand, so if I'm going G, C, not much changes, and then I go to D, and my hand just kind of pivots out a little bit. My wrist comes through. It's a little hard to get that angle. G, C, D, G. So my thumb's not moving so much as it's just a little bit kind of wrist extension. Hope that's helpful. All right, let's see. I'll catch up with the end of the chat here. Gravel Walk's a great tune. I should do a lesson on it. There's a request for Shebake Shamor. I don't know if we've done that. Let me check. Oh wait, where's the tunes one? Apologies while I look through list of play along jams. All right. Denise makes great PDFs, or not PDFs, but kind of table of contents for these live sessions. Wow, thank you so much to Wanda Smooth for the very generous super chat. Really appreciate it. What was the question? Shebake Shamor. Let's do it. We haven't done it yet. A beautiful O'Carolyn tune. Lovely tune. Kind of surprised we haven't done that one already. So next week, or not next week because of Maine Fiddle Camp, who I hope I see you all there. It's going to be a great time. Mandolin workshops, you name it. Also, if you want to play a different instrument, they probably offer that as well. But then next 2 weeks from now, let's do maybe 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks. I might be out of town for a little while. But I'll be in touch about when the next one's going to happen, and we'll do Shebake Shamor. It's going to be a good time. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Hope you have a great weekend. Stay warm. Stay safe. Play a lot of mandolin, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Oh, hit the wrong button.